Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Governor Robert Bentley is still pushing for new taxes. Also, the V-Team takes a look at the options before us. And Speaker of the House Mike Hubbard says he's anti-gambling. Yeah, like Judas was anti-silver. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett, and the V-Team with Claire Austin, Susan Britt, Jack Campbell, Baron Coleman, Charlana Spencer, and special reports with Jonathan Barbie. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning. Good to be back with y'all.
Nice to have you back. How was your trip?
It was nice and cool in Chicago. Unlike the heat wave we've had here.
Well, it has been hot in Alabama and nowhere more hot than over at the Capitol. The governor has been calling in House members, asking them to support his tax plan. He's been polling them. Susan, where is this going?
I'm not sure where he thinks he's going to go with this. I mean, when Mike Hubbard tried to pass taxes in the House this last session, the caucus members said no. And now this is somebody that they vote with or agree with 99.9% of the time. They never agree with Bentley. I don't know how he thinks he's going to be able to turn their heads and agree to raise taxes.
Claire, you think there's any appetite for taxes out there?
There's just not. I mean, over the last 6 or 7 months since we came back in session and since he was reelected, inauguration, nobody is really out there is interested in raising taxes. And so many of these members, particularly, freshman House members and freshman senators, they're just like, we're not voting for taxes because we know what will happen to us in another 4 years.
Well, Baron, he's also talking about raiding the Education Trust Fund. How's that going to play?
Well, we've talked about that before. You would have people running against you as you took money from education to give to prisons. But there's a bigger problem with the meetings. Cam Ward's bill this past session that they passed, the governor signed, a big signing ceremony, everybody on Twitter and in the news celebrated, restoring the Open Meetings Act.
Right.
Now, we know caucus meetings are not subject to the Open Meetings Act, but I'm not sure if Governor Bentley's calling these guys 8 or 10 in at a time, that this doesn't qualify as a serial meeting. That under the Open Meetings Act, we have a right to be aware of. And I don't know if this is again, pass a law and just completely ignore it and go on and do whatever we want anyway, if that's what the governor's trying to do. If I was one of these House members, I would bring this up to the governor and say, Governor, I don't think I can be at these meetings because this smacks of serial meeting to me.
They probably hadn't even thought of it, if you want to know the honest to God truth, since it just passed and was signed into law. They just hadn't thought about it.
They don't think about the bills they pass?
Well, I hate to say there's a lot of bills that they pass and they don't think about the repercussions for these bills.
Well, this is, to me, it's a serial meeting, and we need to be aware of what's going on in these meetings.
Plus, it's also, this restored a previous law. It's not like they've never had this open meetings law before. This restored one that they got rid of.
Well, maybe somebody should reach out to the Press Association as well.
Because he's met with enough of them that it would be a quorum if they all met together.
Right.
That to me seems like a serial meeting.
Well, it's an interesting concept. I mean, I've been mainly focused on the fact that when I hear from representatives, they're telling them, Governor Bentley, we are not raising taxes the way you want to do it. We might look at a couple of these little things. The soda tax, which I think is ridiculous tax.
It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
I mean, soda tax, really? I mean, people at Walmart buying their Dr. Thunder are going to be mad, don't you think, Claire?
Well, I mean...
A nickel for 12 ounces?
Yeah.
Sodas aren't good for you, but it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we won't tax. I mean, it's just a user tax. It's another user tax.
The people at Vitale Walmart come out with cases of this stuff at a time. Not just one or two, cases of it.
And wait a minute, and that also increases diabetes in the state of Alabama? Obesity and everything else. So.
We are Southerners. We have a right to be obese and eat fried chicken 3 times a day.
There's nothing more Alabamian than a cold Coca-Cola on a summer day. I'm
with
sorry.
peanuts.
With peanuts, apparently.
And it does not dehydrate you at all.
No. Well, you know, Craig Ford, Democrat who's been pushing the lottery and the gaming bills for a long time, he says from his standpoint, there's only 2 options. Either raise taxes, which he even says he's against, or pass a gaming bill or a lottery. I mean, we're getting a lot of feedback now, Claire, where some people are saying, well, we want a lottery, but we don't want gaming. Are you hearing that?
I have, but I agree. I agree with Representative Craig Ford. I mean, I think those are the only options. People are not going to raise taxes in Alabama. We've seen it again and again and again the last 15 or 20 years. They're not up for that. I think gaming is very interesting. I think y'all said you've polled it. You know, 10 and 8 years ago, people weren't necessarily for it, but you had a governor that was, you know, spearheading it in the other direction. I've seen a tremendous different appetite for gaming, with lottery and open gaming in Alabama, and I think it's amazing the poll numbers how it shifted that way. And people just know, people have this mindset. Well, hey, Mississippi's got it, Georgia's got this, everybody's got it. Why people are going to gamble no matter what? If they're in Alabama, they're going to go to Mississippi, Georgia, Florida. Why not let us get some revenue and help fix the coffers here?
Well, you know, you missed Coach Dye when he came over.
I hate that I missed my friend because I'm an Auburn grad and he is a good friend.
But he has come out for this. Charles McCrary, the former CEO of Alabama Power, also Raymond Hubbard of Hubbard Management. What we're hearing right now is that Alabama Jobs Foundation is getting ready to announce an executive director and some other big name players that are going to come on board. How much weight does that carry, Claire?
Well, I think it'll carry a lot of weight. I think it'll carry a lot of money, and surely I imagine they'll hire people. I imagine they'll do advertising, and I just think that, you know, the palette out there, even for Republican people, because I've been active in the Republican Party for years, a lot of people are for this now.
Susan, you've talked to some senators lately. They seem to not be on board with taxes, but seem to say their people are on board with a lottery or a gaming package.
Yes, they are. A lot of these senators have changed their tune over the years. They see we've got a crisis, we've got to fix the crisis. They are not going to vote for taxes because they ran that they wouldn't. So this is the only logical conclusion for them.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when you talk to some of these senators, they think, well, gaming is not the fit for this, okay? But, you know, if we have the lottery and we have gaming, and I think a lot of the House members are leaning more towards the lottery, you know, let's open it up and let the supply and demand, you know, decide what's going to happen here in Alabama. Just as long as we have a gaming commission and everything is structured properly. I think that's key on this passing, you know, making sure it's set up properly like a lot of these states. I mean, that's the key.
Once again this week, Governor Bentley has come out bearing and said that he would not enter the gaming issue into the call. As we pointed out before, a lot of these legislators do not understand they can bring it into the call by themselves.
And frankly, the backbenchers, the new guys, it doesn't matter what they want either, but it sure doesn't matter what the governor wants at this point. The leadership knows how to get a gambling bill into a special session. Let them deal with it. If it comes up before the full body, then they'll understand that the governor is the single most irrelevant figure in this entire debate.
And that's a sad thing, because he should be.
He shouldn't be, but the way our Constitution, I'm not making a blast at Bentley, I'm just saying the way our Constitution's set up, the governor is completely irrelevant with respect to a constitutional amendment in a special session. He has no say in it. I
mean, when Governor Bentley was taking down the Confederate flags, and not just the battle flag, but all the flags, he came out and said, these flags are a distraction, and I need to...
He said, I have taxes to raise.
I have taxes to raise. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. Governor Bentley's got taxes to raise, and people don't want them raised. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
Sadly, this happens too often in families with autistic children.
First nightmare, their child wanders off, disappears, and is nowhere to be found.
Where her body was found just a couple hours ago.
An autistic boy wanders away from home and dies.
It's time to take a road trip.
In Alabama, the road and the restaurants are calling. We've elevated barbecue to an art form, a meat masterpiece. Fine dining your thing? National awards are putting us on the map.
Because everything's fresh and local.
And if you like your dinner with a view, well, you can't beat this. Alabama has a road trip with your name on it.
Which one you gonna take?
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Bill.
Good to have you back.
So good to see you,
Claire,
Jackson.
I didn't know it was a National Eggplant Day, but you look splendid.
Blue suede shoes and eggplant to be proper.
Baron?
Well, now that we have
It's a worth day, excuse me.
the haute couture out.
Can you spell it?
No, I can't even pronounce it. What I can do, though, is we were reading a story the other day in the OA News, hometown newspaper of Speaker of the House Mike Hubbard. And Mike Hubbard was in the paper saying that he was anti-gambling. He also said he'd always been anti-gambling and that he did not support gambling as a means to finance government. What he did not say, Jack, is that he took almost $500,000 from gambling interests to finance the 2010 takeover by the ALGOP. Lift out that little point.
Yeah, this legislature is not exactly known for not being hypocritical. I mean, we all know he's self-serving. I'm sorry, but sounds good to the voters. I'm anti-gambling, but look at where we are. We have to do something.
But wait a minute, y'all. I mean, 6 weeks ago, he already said when they introduced the gaming legislation that he was against Del Marsh's package, that he would only move forward the Indians package. So he was saying he was for gaming then, and 6 weeks later he's saying he's not?
Well, he doesn't mind the Indians having it because he said we can't do anything about them. I mean, Baron, this is sort of disingenuous, isn't it?
It's extremely disingenuous. Leaving aside the fact that, like you said earlier, it took $500,000 already from the gambling folks. I don't understand where the Republican Party gets off thinking it's a Republican position to be anti-gambling. That's maybe in some corners of the world, half of the Baptist church believes that, and a few of the other Christian groups, but that is not the Republican Party by and large. Del Marsh put out a poll recently that showed the Republican Party, people that identify as Republicans, 60% of them support legalizing gambling the way Del Marsh wants to legalize it.
Well, I mean, from my standpoint, and I voted for a lot of these Republicans, voted Republican a lot. My deal is, zero-sum games for money. I think I have an ethical problem with it. But if the people of Alabama or the people of America say that they want to make gambling legal, then as a citizen, I got to go, okay. I mean, that's where I come from.
Well, historically, Claire, you back me up because you and I have been in the party a long time. We've really never had, as a party, a position on gambling.
Well, exactly, and I was going to bring that up because, I mean, I was in, D.C. for all those years, and remember Paul Laxalt from Nevada, and all the Nevadans all were in the gaming industry, and the National Republican Committee has taken gaming money for years. I mean, the whole 12 years I was up there involved in it, we always took gaming money.
Paul Laxalt, Senator from Nevada was Ronald Reagan's national chairman,
right?
1984.
Well, I mean, this is on Hubbard's part to say that he's anti-gaming is like Judas saying he's anti-silver. I mean, it's just BS.
Well, and to me, it smacks of fishing for a better deal for him. Right. I mean, I'm against you, wink, wink, but I'm open to being changed. The whole thing, yes, it's very disingenuous.
One of the things that we saw this week, and Claire sent it to me from when you were out of town, is that the U.S. House of Representatives, some of the more conservative members of the House, are getting ready to lay plans to come after Speaker John Boehner. And the reason they say that they're doing that is because he has instituted a culture of punishment. If you don't vote Boehner's way, you get punished. They're getting ready to do something about it, Barron. We don't do jack about it down here.
Well, at least they're talking about it.
Right.
No problem,
at least
Jack.
they're talking about it. At the national level, the national Republicans look at their leadership and say, don't punish us for voting our conscience in our district. Knock it off. Here at the state level, It's as if, they're in the minor leagues saying, oh, I just want to get up to the big leagues. Please don't hurt me, And I've compared it before. This is what cheap prostitutes do. They go in somewhere and they hope they get paid and not beat up. And unfortunately, and I'm sorry, our Republicans in the House in particular are acting just like that. They hope they get paid and not beat up.
I mean, Jack, is this the way it's supposed to be? I mean, is this really a Republican idea? Follow at all costs?
No, I mean, and I don't want to always bring up Ronald Reagan, but, Tip O'Neill was Speaker, and they fought at times, but, in the end, they compromised on some things. But this idea that you punish people, and we certainly see it in Alabama, who don't toe the line every time, it's why people hate politics.
Well, and it's funny you say that. I did send that to you, but funny enough, I'll have to say, I have plenty of friends in D.C., but I had some House members in Alabama that this registered with them, and they sent it to me and they said, this is very familiar. And I thought, well, yeah, y'all have been living under this rule for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
If you don't do something, I'm going to snatch you from this committee. I'm going to snatch you from rules, ways and means. And people are just fed up with it. You've seen it in the past in history, and you probably know this, Jack. In Congress, people kind of tended to fall more in line with leadership. However, when you get to regions of the country and you've got to vote your conscience for what's best for the Southeast region versus the Northeast or the Pacific West, you've got to do what's best for your region, your district, and your state.
And this is something we've been talking about recently, is that our House here is such works from a completely top-down model. I mean, whatever Hubbard says goes. And that's just the way it has been
well,
in the past.
It's changing, don't you? I mean, I've seen her temperament have changed in the last session.
But is it possible that the House of Representatives should be flipped on its head and be a grassroots up?
Well, I think when Mike Hubbard is eventually done, and my guess is it'll be in the next 6 months or so, if not sooner, but when he's eventually out of the leadership position or out of the House altogether, I'm hoping they go for a speaker who is not in the lineage or the coaching tree, so to speak, of Mike Hubbard. Not somebody he's appointed to a chairmanship or rules or something like that, but somebody else who's willing to come in and say, look, I'm going to let you guys vote your district. I'm going to bring more things to the floor. I'm going to let some debates go on that maybe we haven't had in the past. I may not agree with you, but I'm going to bring it to the floor and let you vote for it.
I mean, the House of Representatives is supposed to be just that. They're supposed to bring their folks' idea, right, Jack?
That's right. Well, look at Gerald Allen, who had a gun bill that passed the Senate. It never got a committee assignment in the House, did it?
No.
I mean,
and that's highly unusual.
Very unusual.
Well, BCA didn't want that, I guess.
Oh, wow.
That's correct.
So, I mean, we really, I was talking to someone the other day, they said, it'd be great if we could get rid of Hubbard, but if we really want to see change in Alabama, we're going to have to get rid of Billy Canary, too. They don't think that one without the other.
What did Paul Busman say? We've gotten rid of AEA, now the new AEA is BCA.
Yeah.
And I heard behind the scenes, you hear that BCA is hanging on by a thread, several major members looking to pull out. They may go the way of the dodo bird for long.
Well, I tell you,
it's fractious.
I could see a conservative brand of the AEA. I could see a real conservative brand of the BCA coming out of there and doing some good.
Yeah.
We got Manufacture Alabama.
Right. I think you've seen some members pull out of BCA and go to Manufacture Alabama, what I've seen in the last year.
Well, that can happen. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and views. Thanks for watching.
Sadly, this happens too often in families with autistic children.
First nightmare, their child wanders off, disappears, and is nowhere to be found.
Where her body was found just a couple hours ago.
An autistic boy wanders away from home and dies.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Baron, I gave your and Jack's show a little plug there, news and views. Tell the folks how they can catch you guys on the radio every day.
Well, if you're in the Montgomery area, News Talk 93.1 is on 93.1 FM. If you're not, you can listen online, stream it live on newstalk931.com. There's a WACV app on Apple and the Android store, and there is TuneIn Radio. You can check it out there.
I think it goes all to Central Alabama, because I've driven to Clanton and listened to y'all, and I've driven to Marion and listened to y'all.
Yeah.
So
we listen to it North Central Alabama.
We can tell who's listening online, or not exactly who, but where they are, and it's pretty much all over the state. I mean, there's a lot of people tune in every day.
It's a very thoughtful show. Guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's entertaining.
Well, thank you.
9 to noon, that is.
9 to noon. News to view.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
Okay, let's talk about some house cleaning now.
Yeah, over at the Attorney General's office, there has been some house cleaning. First, there was Sonny Reagan. Then there was Gene Sisson. Then there was Kevin Turner. And now we learned that the chief investigator, Timothy Furman, is out. A lot of things going on over there. Alice Martin's cleaning up, but this thing goes back a ways.
It does go back a ways, and it's very long and involved, and it's such a confusing story, people are tempted to just ignore it. But if you put it in this context, Republicans get a little more excited. Can you imagine the Attorney General of the United States investigating Obama and having people inside the Attorney General's office leaking information back to Obama? Every Republican in Alabama would rightly be outraged. They should take that similar outrage and apply it to hear what's going on here in Alabama, because that is exactly what's happened here.
Yes, egregious, might I say.
It's totally and 100% egregious. Tim Furman, the reason he was let go, or the story around it, is that he was authorizing people to surreptitiously tape record other employees of the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so far beyond outrageous that I don't understand how people hear this story and go, politics as usual. It's not.
No. I mean, that's something that the mafia gets an inside guy. You know, we watch these crime movies, Jack, and they pay off the chief.
We're living in Alabama. What you talking about?
I'm telling you, it's just crazy. But I mean, really, Gene Sisson said that his boss okayed him to tape Van Davis.
It's ridiculous. And, you know, Matt Hart, who's worked his tail off, I assume, for 2 years on this case, has to be the most frustrated man in Alabama. You have your own employees undermining your investigation, and not just like dropping the ball, but furnishing the defense with information they shouldn't have.
I hear, and you may hear this too, that things have shaped up under Alice Martin.
Well, I would think so. Knowing her past, her reputation, and she's a strong woman. She'll do a great job. So I'm glad to see her in there really pushing the envelope and getting rid of these people, because, like you said, this is unreal and it is egregious. And Lord, Matt Hart, I can only imagine. Here he is in here trying to follow the rule of law and do what's right, and you have people inside, and not just people, but people in higher positions trying to defeat you.
Well, you know, I mean, and we talked about this 2 years ago. We were, we were seeing signs of that. We did reports. We all talked about it, how, you know, there were inside the office of the Attorney General's office people who tried to stop the investigation into Hubbard.
I don't think people realize how close they were to succeeding either.
And I don't think people realize, they thought that y'all were writing these stories and that was a bunch of hogwash. Now it's come out that y'all were like Paul Harvey telling the only rest of the story. I mean, that's what was going on.
Well, and all the facts have proven it out. I mean, court documents have proven that that's exactly what was happening. And I tell you, Baron's right. He could have walked just on this.
They almost succeeded in undermining Matt Hart to the point where Matt Hart was going to be fired. I mean, that's the rumor.
But how does Kevin Turner escape and get a DC job?
K Street,
baby. Do they
not
even vet him? Because if you vet him on this one issue alone, he's unemployable in my opinion.
Well, I know, but you know what? Sometimes they do. If we don't want him and he's trouble, let's pass the buck somewhere else. Let's go ahead and promote him and send him somewhere else. So you see that in politics.
But I think Jack's question is: did the hiring agency, the hiring company who hired him, not Google his name?
Probably not.
Well, if they Googled him and they hit on the articles by us, they wouldn't have hired him.
I wouldn't think so.
But, you know, I think, a lot of times it's one of those deals, and we've seen it before. There's a couple of them right now that are working for some big fancy law firms as lobbyists, and then that law firm gets $150,000 from the state. Wonder where that paycheck came from.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we talked about last week with the hand Aaron doll.
Yeah.
I mean,
$630,000 $500,000 for 18 months.
What's half a million among friends?
Yeah. In politics, obviously, not much.
Forget that we have problems with general fund budget, but we're handing out all these contracts to these big law firms. I mean, it's...
Well, it is outrageous, and nothing is going to change, we predict, until Mike Hubbard is gone. Jack, is there anybody out there? Is there any way that these people are going to see the light? I mean, as I wrote last week, under Mike Hubbard, the State House is nothing but a whorehouse for sale.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well,
I wish I
all
thought of it. No, I mean, people that don't see what's going on after all that's been written by you, not by the
y'all do
establishment media.
Yeah,
well, we try, but sometimes we think we're the lone voice, at least in this area. If you don't see it going on, I mean, all the sweetheart deals, all the insider stuff. I mean, Greg Wren resigned to avoid prison time, okay?
And he's the one that forgets about that. I think it's so important to bring that up.
Right there, we have state rep in Montgomery who had to resign or go to jail, and he carried out what Mike Hubbard wanted him to carry out, pure and simple. So if people can't see that, they need a German Shepherd or a red-tipped cane.
I mean, Barron, you're an attorney. You look at this stuff all the time. How do they ignore the laws that were broken?
Well, and that's what I don't understand is you still hear people to this day saying, well, it could be political. If it was me and it was political, I wouldn't resign. It's not political. Most of these crimes, if you look at the statute, the way they were written, the toughest ethics laws ever, as Mike Hubbard calls it, the what were we thinking ethics laws, if you look at them, they're basically strict liability. If you do anything, if you ask anything of somebody who is a registered lobbyist, you're guilty. There's no requirement for a meeting of the minds. There's no requirement for an exchange of goods or a deal. If you just ask them for something, boom, you're guilty. We have emails where he's asking them for stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is as clear cut and as plain as day as you can possibly see.
We were doing the math the other day, Claire, and from the best we can figure, Mike Hubbard, just in his consulting contracts, made around $700,000 last year. Not last year, but in the 2 years he was speaker.
Amazing.
And what's really sad is people that don't follow this like we do, ordinary Alabamians who read the newspaper or watch news every now and then, all say, oh, he's going to walk, he's going to get off. People don't have any faith in the system.
Yeah.
And it's not the people that don't understand it. It's not their fault.
Well, we're going to have to hold it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch news stories every day on alreporter.com and catch us every Sunday on your TV stations throughout the state. Thank you for watching.